Hi, it's time to decide how I am going to quilt this English paper pieced hexagon quilt. Because these are 3/4 inch hexagons, there are a lot of seam allowances on the back of this quilt top. That is going to be really tricky when it comes to hand quilting this. It's just a lot to sew through with the batting and the backing and the top fabric as well. Once I decided that I did not want to do straight line quilting across the quilt top, either vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, which is one way to avoid some of the seam allowances. And I also decided that I was definitely not going to echo quilt a 1/4 inch inside of each hexagon. I knew I had to come up with a different design, and I was having trouble thinking of what to do. So I took a picture of the quilt top and I loaded it into Inkscape. And as I've mentioned before, Inkscape is a free vector graphics program that I've used with my other project, and it's really helped me with visualizing all the possibilities. My first idea that I thought about and played with was random hexagons all over the quilt top, including onto the borders. You can go over to the polygon tool, which is this one. Make sure you've got 6 corners for a hexagon, and then you can hold down the control key and then draw out a hexagon. So for example, this one in particular wouldn't all be on the quilt, but it would be, part of it there, and I thought that's pretty cool. Then I wasn't sure how I felt about all the hexagons intersecting, as it looked a little bit messy and chaotic, and the design wasn't quite resonating with me. I thought I'd go in a completely different direction. So then I experimented with intersecting circles, which I felt were pretty pleasing to the eye. And I like how the curves contrast with the lines and angles of the hexagons in the quilt top, but I still like the idea of hexagonal quilting lines because they give a nod to what's happening in the quilt top. My next experiment then was concentric hexagons radiating out from about a 1/4 inch inside a fabric hexagon. And I really like how this looks. And the idea is that this set of concentric hexagons would be repeated all over the quilt. In Inkscape, I was able to save the concentric hexagons as a group, and then I could copy and paste them around the image to get a feel for the overall look. The lines that you see are white only for visibility purposes because I won't be using white quilting thread in the actual project, but more on that later. I don't know. I think that could look pretty cool. I like that. I needed to figure out how far apart to space the concentric hexagons so that the quilting lines would not end up falling along horizontal seam lines. And to do this, the distance between the flat edge of a hexagon quilting line and its neighbor had to be in constant relationship with the size of an actual fabric hexagon. So the height of a 3/4 inch hexagon from flat side to flat side is 1.298 inches. I'll be using half of that measurement, or 0.649 inches, as the distance between the hexagonal quilting lines. So I decided to go with sets of 9 concentric hexagons instead of sets of 16 hexagons, and I did that for 2 reasons. And the first reason is that if I use sets of 9, then I'll have to use more sets to cover the quilt top. And that's a good thing because I was planning on doing a different thread color for each set, so I can have now more thread colors in my quilting. What do you think? Magus, what do you think of our guest here? Yeah, you're trying to mark your territory. She's just a guest. The second reason is that I'm going to make my templates out of template plastic, and the biggest size that I could find for the extra thick template plastic is 12 by 18. So that meant that the biggest hexagon had to fit within that 12 by 18 because I don't want to combine 2 or more pieces to make a hexagon. I'm just afraid it's going to slip or move or something. So I'm going with sets of 9. Do you have anything to say? Huh? Oh, Casey? What about you, Mavis? Yeah? Okay, did you want to say something? Okay. The center fabric hexagons that each set of hexagonal quilting lines will be radiating out from will most likely be determining the thread color used for each set. The hexagon sets whose central hexagon falls on the blue border fabric will be stitched in a color related to the surrounding sets, and hopefully then I'll end up with a cool gradient around the border. As you can see here, I played around with coloring the lines to get an idea of what my finished quilt would look like. Let's see if it turns out like this. Okay, so I've just picked up my hexagon templates from Staples. I had to have them printed onto blueprint paper because I needed, the biggest one is so big it wouldn't fit onto ledger or legal size paper. So all I need to do now is to cut them out and to put them on the template plastic and then cut the template plastic. I'm using this heavy-duty template plastic for my quilting templates. So in order that it doesn't slip around, I've taped the plastic to the cutting mat. And now I am going to also probably tape this down with some painter's tape so it doesn't slide around. All right, so I might as well use one of the straight edges. All right, so that shouldn't move around too badly. So pretty much with this, you can just score it and then snap it off. Okay, let's see how this went. Hey, look, it's a template. Ta-da! So this is my biggest hexagon template. I've got all of these still to cut out. Here's the very littlest one, and that's going to fit inside an actual hexagon on the quilt. And then everything else will be radiating out from there. Okay, here I go. I'm going to cut the rest. So all my templates are cut now. So the next step is to choose the thread. I'm going to use Aurifil 40 weight, but I do not know yet about the specific colors. So in my next video, I'll be talking about thread choice and the backing fabric and the batting that I'll be using. And also I'm going to start quilting it. One thing though, I'm a little concerned about this central hexagon. This is the one that fits inside of an actual fabric hexagon. It's so tiny, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to stitch small enough to get this shape, but we'll see. So stay tuned till next time. Bye.